Good afternoon, and thank you very much for the opportunity to present today. My name is Dr. Matt Wolf, and I'm the principal at Borland Manor Elementary, and this is my second year at the school. Today, I'm gonna share how we worked to increase staff engagement and buy-in through PBIS subcommittees. I'll start with a quick overview of our school here. So, Borland Manor Elementary is part of the Canon-McMillan School District, located in Canonsburg, Pennsylvania, just outside of Pittsburgh. We are a K-4 building with 275 students. About 21% of our students are economically disadvantaged, and about 21% receive special education services. Like many schools, we had PBIS in place, but over the past 2 years, we really focused on strengthening consistency and staff engagement and overall buy-in from all stakeholders. That was our objective. So the history of our PBIS implementation, during the past 2 years that I've been here, our focus has really been strengthening what we already existed. We already had a tier one system in place, but there was an opportunity to improve clarity and consistency. And so we made intentional adjustments really to strengthen implementation across settings and increase staff buy-in through shared ownership and voice. And that was what we were really trying to do. We made it simple and efficient for staff to implement. And at the same time, we worked to re-engage student incentives through stronger connections with staff or students were more relevant. They had more buy-in, and we really were trying to have it more efficient and to have more buy-in for the teachers, but also for the students to be excited. And I think we've accomplished that role. So those are the things that when we revamped our PBIS implementation, these are the things that we really wanted to focus on. So this work really aligns with TFI 1.14, which really focuses on engaging staff in using data and shaping to improve PBIS practices. So really at its core, this is about staff just not implementing PBIS, but having a voice in how it evolves and really being part of the process. And that's something that we kind of noticed. So as we really stepped back and looked at our work, one thing really became clear. After we revamped everything and we had all the incentives, one thing that we really kind of noticed that was limited ourselves. We didn't just need to adjust our PBIS system, we needed more people to own it. And I think that is really the driving force of what we wanted to do next. We noticed that a lot of our team members were passive. And that was the part of the culture, and we just needed to shift that. And so that's something that we kind of recognized that was a limitation of ours in our system. And that really became the driving for everything we did next, and it really changed how we approach the work moving forward. So the staff feedback and the why, when we looked at our data and the staff feedback, a few patterns really started to emerge. We survey our staff 3 times a year, obviously beginning, middle, and end. And those surveys really look at all aspects of the PBIS program that we have implemented here at Borland Manor. We really dig into each component to get a clear picture of what we really need to adjust based on what the staff's approach and perception really is of the program. We want that to have that buy-in. We want to have that adjustment. So we really dig deep into that. And this really deep dive is into every aspect or every phase of the framework. So we really get a better understanding of how ultimately people are buying into the system and what can we do to make those adjustments to make it easier and more efficient for everybody to be more approachable or just more manageable. And we noticed that the one thing that we did notice that staff were participating, but they really weren't connected to the work. There was a disconnect. They were active, but they weren't really engaged. They didn't believe in the system. And so when I came on board, I noticed that staff enthusiasm was low, and the staff were just going through the motions. It wasn't really a buy-in. It was just, and I think that's part of the process. We just needed a refresh and a reboot, and I think that's part of the whole thing. And as that's probably the biggest piece, that PBIS was functioning, but it wasn't evolving. There was limitations. And so like any leader, any core group, we kind of adjusted it and made those small adjustments. And I think this is something, like I mentioned, this is something a lot of schools experience where systems are in place, but they start losing energy over time. And I think that's one thing we recognize. And one other thing we recognize that without ownership, it's really hard to build consistency or as just a strong sense of community. Like there's never there, it has a limitation if you don't have that component. So that brings us. So we didn't just tweak pieces when we arrived. We really stepped back and reworked the system. We revamped the PBIS program to bring more clarity and purpose, while also rebuilding a sense of pride and ownership. And I think we made the PBIS framework simple, like I said, simple, efficient for staff to manage, and expectations were clear across the board for everybody to understand. After we revamped the program, the core team, we have a PBIS core team here at Borland Manor, and we noticed that we as a group were taking on too much, and we didn't provide enough responsibility or ownership across the for our team members, our PBIS team members. We had a big team because we had a lot of energy, but one thing we noticed that we needed to get more members to be active within the PBIS program or process. And what we noticed that there was a lot of passive engagement within our process, and we needed to shift that. We needed to get everybody on board. And what was typically happening in the past is, and this is typical of me as an administrator, talking the whole time, providing the input, but I needed more people to be engaged and have that ownership and voice. And so as a result, subcommittees became a key part of our restructure. We thought that we needed to provide that ownership back to the team members so we can kind of provide that buy-in and ownership and kind of distribute the power or the influence across all staff members. And these committees really allowed more staff to take ownership across specific areas within our PBIS process. Now, instead of everything running through one team or a small group of people, we started really distributing the work across the PBIS team. So how we kind of did that, we wanted to be mindful and we wanted to start small within our subcommittees. And so one, we started providing time for subcommittees to meet and discuss possible adjustments. Now we started small within our committees, basically focusing on incentives within staff incentives and student incentives that we have ingrained. And so we kind of just gave those pieces out. We made clear expectations of what we wanted, and we gave them time to explore and kind of think through some things that can make that system better. So another thing that we have our staff do within these subcommittees is we have that clarity and purpose, but we also in that meeting we provide a Google Doc. So if there's any questions or concerns that need to be addressed, I, as an administrator, can address those, later on, or I can, if I need to, think through and before the meeting and kind of address some of the things before our next meeting. Now, the big key component is these subcommittees really come together when we have our core committee, and that's when we had more passive members. And what we really wanted to do is this gives us an opportunity for staff or these subcommittees to really talk through the adjustments, have that ownership. They are the ones leading through the incentives. They are making the changes. So it gives them an opportunity to have a voice within these meetings. And that's ultimately what we wanted. We wanted more engagement. This is a slow process, but I think that over time, this is going to shift that culture. And again, it's a shift, not just in the structure, but in the mindset. And it's moving our PBIS from something a few people managed to something more people felt responsible within taking that initiative. And we are seeing that growth. So along with structural changes, we also changed how we gathered how we gathered the changes. Like I said, we used staff surveys, we created more consistent procedures, and we built ongoing feedback loops. And one of the things we really wanted to do was we wanted to provide that close those feedback loops, take their input, and really apply that to influencing our decisions. And that really is that helps us in the team build trust. And that, again, that helps build that shifting mindset, and that trust builds ownership. And as the staff begin to see their input turn into action, ownership starts to grow. And I think that's just really important, that what we really want to do is hear their voice and really apply it to and use it in how we influence and make decisions. So moving forward, I know I only have 5 more minutes, but how we see the action in real examples. And I think that one thing that we saw is from our data, which showed an increase in bus referrals. Obviously, if you're an administrator or anything, the bus is a very vulnerable state for everybody. We allow one driver to have limited ability to control kids while they're driving. So one thing that we did is I went back and reviewed bus videos, and I watch a lot of bus videos. So if you see a bus video, you know that there's notice that drivers don't have a strong sense of like control over student behavior. Not all bus drivers, but some. And that really helped us recognize that this wasn't just a student issue, this was a structural issue. What also stood out was that the expectations weren't clear or consistent on the bus as they were in the building. So we wanted to kind of move that forward. So while we had a strong system inside, we wanted to fully carry on that to the bus setting. So that really helped us, the importance of extending PBIS beyond that. So instead of having the core team kind of do this and kind of make that decision, we provided a bus committee, which that bus committee kind of formed around that need and developed a bus-specific system that included student recognition and driver support. And so we really saw that. And so we provided specific bus tickets to the students. They earned for good behavior. Students, and we're seeing a lot of excitement. Students come in. We had a whole bunch today. We have a special mailbox out front. They get to put it in there. These tickets are different than what we distribute inside. And so we see a lot of momentum in that. But we're also seeing is some ownership among drivers. This is a slow process. We're trying to get more bus drivers to be influenced by this decision, but that we are getting some momentum on that. So, and I think that that's just really important. And one of the things that we had a teacher just kind of recognize that she's a coach for a team. She was driving and she noticed there was a pause incentive poster on the bus. And so PAUSE is our acronym. It stands for practice safety, act respectfully, work hard, and show success. And so it was hanging up on the bus, and she asked, do you drive for Borland Manor? And he said yes. And then he also shared that he actually won the bus pause incentive for drivers twice. And he was really excited about that recognition and just the energy and the kind of moment. But we keep it simple here at Borland Manor. I write him a thank you note, and we give a small gift or a gift card. And it was a small gesture, but clearly meant a lot to him. And so just that kind of initiative. And he mentioned that he has driven for other schools in the district, and he's just never had experienced that connection or recognition. And I think that moment right there kind of showcased that our subcommittee took that initiative and was really able to apply and take that on. And it goes beyond the school. And so that was just a nice positive example. The other thing is that the staff and students, the shift really started to show up. Staff feedback began really shaping practices, and recognition became more consistent and meaningful. And at the same time, students were brought in. And one other thing that we do at Borland Manor is we have Pause Ambassadors program, and we give the kids a voice here, and that's kind of a subcommittee as well. The role of supporting PBIS. Now, these ambassadors, we select them through an application process and we interview process, and requires them to show leadership qualities and initiative. And so we had obviously there's a large interest in this. We go through the process. We pick about 15 to 20 kids, and these ambassadors help support manage our PBIS system initiatives, and they model those expectations across the building. So they really shows that. And so they also take some ownership ownership as that. So, and then we also do a staff ownership also show up through our staff incentive committee. They generated ideas that were refined through staff surveys, create incentives, and it's more inclusive and individualized. And I think those kind of shifts, they develop that ownership. They are in charge of that incentive, that committee, and it really is moving that forward. And so that committee wanted the incentives to be purposeful and simple. And I think with the survey of the staff and the incentives be meaningful. And so overwhelmingly, we recognize that the staff came back, and obviously a duty-free and Gene Day coupons were always the hit. But we also wanted to make other things. I never want to give someone who doesn't like chocolate a chocolate bar, and so that's really what we were kind of making that incentive to be. So really, the PBIS started shifting from something we were doing to something we are part of, and I think that's something that the subcommittees really helped us get everybody involved. So I know I'm 1 minute over, but I just have a few more, just two more slides. And as a result, with the impact, so what we really saw was staff really increasing a stronger sense of shared ownership. And more staff were not just participating, they were helping lead parts of that system. And I think that's really important about these subcommittees. It takes time, it's incentive, it's culture. Instead of running through one group or the core group who would get burnt out, what we were seeing is responsibility was shared across the team, even across the building. And so PBIS was starting to contribute ideas, helping refine practices, and take ownership in different pieces of the PBIS and these subcommittees. And that shift really made that system more consistent day to day. And because of it, being supported by more people across the building and having that ownership, and people were believing in the system. And I think that's where we're trying to go. So in our scores, so one of the things that in our self-assessing, our team on this work, I really truly think that we're a 3. We're not to a 4 yet, but I think that we are on the process of a 4. And that's something that, as reflection, we're always trying to be better. What we really want to do is have full self-sufficiency among subcommittees. And I think we're on that process. This takes time because we are changing the culture. And I think that takes time for everybody. So in closing, so if you're doing two things, if you're getting started or getting better, and I think depending on where you are as a team, you want to proceed with that topic. Our advice at any level is keep it simple and also allow others to lead. It is giving them that expectation and allow others to lead, and giving that ownership. If they believe that their voice and their input is valuable, then they will take and run with it. And I think that's one thing that we are trying to do, and we are doing here at Borland Manor. If you're just getting started, really focus on something small and meaningful, and change that build on that early momentum. Keep it simple and keep it going. Gather input, staff input, and stay the course. Don't give up. And I think sometimes it takes consistency. If your system's already in place, focus on letting staff voice drive decisions. I think that's important, is listening to everybody and inputting their decisions into inputting their input into those decisions. Distributing the leadership, maintaining consistency. Be consistent. Don't change your course. And using that data to refine that practice. And at the center of everything is this ownership. And I think if you want to build ownership with your PBIS system, you start having people to lead and keep it simple. That's what we're trying to do at Borland Manor. So I guess I'm a little over, and I apologize, but that's all we have.